Hello, this is Radiance Thompson, and today we're talking about how there is absolutely nothing wrong with you, and that blocks are creating static in your energy field, costing you in business decisions and love. So, this video is for the woman who has already done the inner work and is still hitting a ceiling that she cannot explain. Not a beginner, not someone who needs convincing that mindset matters, someone who is spiritually grounded, self aware, accomplished, and still overriding their intuition and decisions that cost her in business and relationships and the ideas that she's still sitting on. So, I'm going to break down today is why that keeps happening. What is actually creating the block? What you are trying to solve in journaling, in affirmations, in therapy that hasn't fully moved the needle, and what's working and what working with your frequency actually looks like, and why shifting your frequency gives you more access to your intuition, allowing you to make decisions that feel cleaner, clearer, and so you can finally see that progress when it comes to business, relationships, opportunities, ideas. So if you have ever made a decision that felt safe and regretted it, and watched someone else monetize an idea that came to you first, or felt like you were running your life on logic when you know that there's something else that's meant to be guiding you, more connected, more spiritual, then this video is for you. So, you're someone that has built something real, a business, a reputation, a life that looks amazing on paper, that looks like everything that you have ever wanted. And you are still overriding your intuition with logic, still watching someone else make money off an idea that came to you first, still asking everyone around you before you trust yourself to move on a decision. And this is not a mindset issue. This is a frequency issue, that's blocking access to your intuition so you can make decisions for your business, your career, your relationships, for your $1 million ideas so they can actually progress forward, that generate results that you actually enjoy, that give you the discernment to make a decision about who and what is meant for you and who isn't and what isn't. And frequency problems aren't problems that you can simply think yourself out of. If you try to outmaneuver a frequency problem with mindset work and thinking alone, you're only accessing what's called the mental plane of existence, when you really need to be working with the physical plane and the mental plane and the spiritual plane together, because all planes of existence affect your frequency. And this is what gives you more access to your intuition. So we'll talk more about mental, spiritual, and physical planes in a different video, but I'm going to give you just a brief overview in the video as well, just so you can understand where I'm coming from. So what I do see when I work with high achieving, successful women is that they are not, beginners at doing this. They've done the inner work. They are self-aware. They have been accomplished, but yet there's still a block they cannot locate. And it shows up with you waking up feeling anxious, even though you have had sleep and you feel like nothing's necessarily wrong, or you spiral on an idea instead of moving on it. You freeze at pivot points in your career or your business. You take the safe client, the safe relationship, the safe decision, and 6 months later, you're wondering why that safe decision still doesn't feel good. Why didn't you listen to yourself? And you're looping, and you cannot logic your way out of a loop that logic has created. You're experiencing perhaps stomach or chest issues, or tightening or contraction. And in your business, you may have even hit a ceiling where you're taking on misaligned clients because saying no felt too uncomfortable. Ideas that you've sat on, you may have even been sitting and watching someone else make an idea money off an idea that came to you first. In your relationships, you're present in the room, but not fully there. You're the one managing everything. And somewhere along the way, you stop asking yourself, what do you need? Maybe even the people around you stop asking you what you need. And this is what unaddressed energy blocks look like. And they don't just affect your mood, they affect every part of your life that your intuition is supposed to be guiding. So what do? You journal, you affirm, you go back to therapy, you talk through the same patterns, and you leave feeling understood, feeling heard, perhaps, but not necessarily unchanged. And you add another morning routine, perhaps, another modality to what you've already been doing with your breath work and meditations, or another coach that tells you to trust the process. And then None of it moves the needle the way you really want it to. Affirmation and mindset work address, once again, the mental plane of existence. But the block isn't just in your thoughts, it's in your frequency, where your energy field, in your energy field. And that block has manifested itself in the physical, where things aren't moving forward, aren't progressing, aren't changing. In the physical plane, this is where your body keeps repeating the same actions. In the mental plane, this is where you keep thinking the same thoughts, going through the same loops. In the spiritual plane, this is where you keep on repeating the same lessons and you wonder why that keeps happening. The choices available to you, with the decisions that you ultimately are capable of making, this is where your intuition comes into play, because your intuition is guiding you toward um, uh, information that you pick up on. And the information that you pick up on is directly related to your frequency, the frequency that your energy field is emitting. And that information that you are able to pick up on is determined by how much you have resolved within yourself when it comes to that physical, mental, and spiritual plane. So you have to get through those mental loops, and in order for your frequency to no longer pick up on the same choices. And you have to get through the physical actions that you keep repeating, so that way you stop repeating those same physical actions. So if you're working harder, for example, and it feels like even though you're working harder, it's not working, it's because you haven't fully addressed the mental, emotional, and spiritual planes of existence properly. So you cannot think your way into a stronger intuitive signal, so your decisions that you actually make move life forward. You have to clear the energetic interference on a multi-dimensional level. Habits need to change. Thinking patterns need to change. Spiritually, how you feel about yourself, your state of consciousness needs to change. All three need to change. Now, I know you may be thinking to yourself, at your level of success that you've built, is that how is it that you have accumulated all of these things and done all of these things and have achieved what you have achieved, and yet there's still that little bubbling feeling of not fully trusting yourself? And that self doubt is where you go against what you intuitively already know. And it's difficult because there is that like inner frustration and loneliness that you may feel of like outgrowing a version of yourself that you may not know how to fully cross into the newer version of yourself, or just the version of yourself that you were always meant to be, but you don't feel safe being that version of you. And there may even be a state of exhaustion that you're feeling, like where you're like, okay, I'm someone that everyone looks to for answers, yet who do I have to look for? Where do I look? How do I feel safe and confident in the answers that I'm seeking? And I want you to understand that this isn't who you are. This is what a blocked frequency produces, and it is addressable. So, we talked a lot about the mental plane, the physical plane, and the spiritual. Well, we talked briefly. I shouldn't say a lot, because there's definitely a lot more depth that we can go to. But we're going to focus right now on the mental plane and the mental loops that keep you stuck in logic over trusting what you intuitively know. So let's talk about it. What's going on upstairs? So, for example, when you face a high stakes decision, and there's three parts of your brain specifically that we're going to talk about today that activate. So you have something called the amygdala that fires first, and it reads a threat. And at your level of success, the threats that it misreads are often activations of old wounds. So this looks like an opportunity that pokes at a feeling of unworthiness, a relationship that mirrors past pain, a business move that touches on a belief of not being good enough or not being enough. And then your hippocampus comes into play. So this is part of your limbic system. And what I didn't say earlier is that your amygdala is more part of your reptilian system, more part of your survival mechanisms, more part of your ancient primal responses to keep you alive. So here we go with the now hippocampus. This is part of your limbic system. This is part of where you have pattern recognition. It scans your history. So, and your memory. So there is an unresolved emotion in the body. It colors your perception with how you perceived a past event, a past experience, a past pain. So here's the thing, the hippocampus is also involved in your intuitive decision making. So if this part of your brain, which is bridging the gap between fears, old patterns, old wounds, and your connection to your intuition, so unresolved fears, unresolved pain, unresolved emotions, unresolved wounds will have a direct effect on your hippocampus's ability to pick up on intuitive nudges. So this is critical because this is where you either put your fears or your intuition on a pedestal, affecting your discernment, affecting your decision making, ultimately affecting the decisions that you use, that you implement for your career, for your business, for opportunities, for your relationships, for your ideas, for your life. And because your intuition is directly related to your frequency, the decisions available to you, the information you're able to pick up on will be directly related to how much you are still carrying in your energy field. Unresolved pain, unresolved fears, emotional residue. Those things will exist in your frequency. Now, then we go to the prefrontal cortex. This is where your rational mind gets involved, where you have executive functioning. This part of your brain is supposed to make clear, integrated decision making from your amygdala, from your hippocampus. But if the first two, if your hippocampus and if your amygdala have been completely hijacked by fears, by pains, by old wounds that you haven't fully resolved or have a state of awareness of at least, if that happens, this will make access to your intuition that much more unreachable or out of reach. It will feel like that, unclear, muddled by your inner noise. And your inner noise will actually be at a higher decibel, at a higher volume than your intuition. And your rational mind at this point, your prefrontal cortex, your executive functioning, is then working with corrupted data from your hippocampus, from your amygdala. So your mental plane is vastly affected by how much unresolved residue you're still carrying. And it also obviously affects your physical plane, it affects your spiritual plane. So all of these are working together in concert together, and you have to then see how is this affecting my life from moving in the direction that I want it to. So true intuitive decision making is a mixture of the physiological events that are happening, your emotions, your brain, your heart, your frequency, your spiritual bodies, your mental, spiritual, emotional, physical planes of existence. They're all working together. Now, because in this video, we really highlighted how your decision making and your intuition is affected by specific parts of the brain, your amygdala, your hippocampus, and your prefrontal cortex to be working in sequence. These parts of the brain contribute to what's called an electromagnetic signal that affects your energy field that is emanating from the brain. It determines what frequency that you're operating at, and if it's clear enough to receive the intuitive guidance that will allow you to have clear, more confident, and more clean decision making without distortion. So I want you to practice also these questions. So if you're in the in-between of a decision and you're wondering, okay, which way do I go? Try these three questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, is this the safest option or the most aligned one? At your level of success, you already know what safe decisions are. Now, the question is whether you're choosing the safe decision because it's right or because it's familiar. Now, number two, does this decision create relief? Relief is not clarity. If your body exhales the moment you make a choice, check whether that exhale is alignment, or whether it's your nervous system, your body's need to feel safe, creating a settling. So that way you can avoid the trigger, so you can avoid the feeling of discomfort, so you can avoid facing yourself in moments of discomfort. Now, number three, are you making this decision to stop what you're feeling in your body right now? Perhaps you feel your stomach tightening, perhaps you feel your chest constricting, perhaps you feel a heaviness on your shoulders. If the sensation is, if you have a sensation where you have a physiological response due to a decision that you have to make. And that physiological response disappears when you make that decision. You may have chosen to end the physiological discomfort, not necessarily because the decision was aligned, not necessarily because you tapped into your intuition to make that decision. It created a relief, it created a comfort. It allowed you, again, not to have to hold those uncomfortable feelings in your body. So your intuition, now, and this is another common misconception, your intuition is supposed to feel neutral, but it also doesn't mean that discomfort won't be available. Like, if you're being called to make a decision that you've never felt before, and your body is just like, hold the door, like, you may feel discomfort in a decision that you're being intuitively guided to make. But what will happen is you'll be able to ground yourself inside that decision when you're making an intuitively aligned decision. And that is the distinction. It only becomes available to you, that grounding, that sense of, okay, I have maybe never done this before, but I feel like this is something that I'm meant to do. That grounding is available to you when you remove the energy blocks that we talked about from your energy field. Those gaps that have been created by fear, by unprocessed emotion, by past pain, when those are cleared, even more so, that's when a grounded intuitive decision, even in the face of discomfort, can be made available to you. Because again, your intuition makes decisions based off of your frequency. And if your frequency is running through old wounds, old patterns, old fears, your intuition is working with that data. Clearing your energy field for faster, cleaner, more confident, intuitive decision making is therefore why that part of the journey is not optional. It is the inner work that makes everything else work when it comes to your intuitive decision making. Now, here's what becomes possible when we have cleared some of that static, when we have worked together one-on-one, when we work together and now we feel more confident making decisions with your intuition, life is progressing forward, life finally starts feeling good to live. You're riding your own wave, operating from a state of flow instead of a state of friction. Here's what your day-to-day has the possibility of looking like. You wake up and the weight in your body dissipates. Your body is your compass instead of your source of anxiety. And as someone that has really come a long way with anxiety, that is huge. Because I know the heaviness that can create. Decisions that used to take weeks will take days, if not hours. And you follow through on your $1 million idea instead of watching someone make money off idea that came to you first. I literally watched someone do something that had intuitively came to me years ago and they went viral for it. And that really told me, Ray, you got to stop second guessing yourself. And this goes to you also pivoting in your business when you know you've outgrown something, even though it's worked, even though it's made you money, but you're like, hey, there's something else that I know I need to be doing. And instead of staying safe, I need to trust myself to do this pivot, even though it feels uncertain. You turn down clients that aren't aligned, and you do it from a place of love and clarity, not from holding on to something from a place of guilt or from a place of scarcity. And you show up at the dinner table actually present with your family, your kids, not managing your mental to-do list from a place of depletion. And you become the heart of your home, not just the person running it. You stop choosing the safe relationship and start trusting your full body yes in love. You stop looking everywhere around you for the answer and start recognizing that the answer was always yours. You just need to clear your energy field enough to receive that intuitive guidance. And you have more discernment, more flow, less dilly-dallying, a life that actually feels good on the outside and on the inside. So if this landed for you, if you recognize yourself in the words that I said, in the work that I do, in the work that I do for my clients one-on-one, I want you to reach out. The link will be in the comments or in my bio, because we will get to the root of what's creating the interference in your energy field. We work at the level of your frequency, not just mindset, not just affirmations, not just journaling. We get to the root of what's affecting your energy field. And we get you to a place where your intuition works faster, clearer, and you have more confidence in your decision making using your intuition. And your intuition you begin to have access more to your intuition consistently in your body, in real decisions, in real time, for your business, for your career, for opportunities, for ideas, your relationships. You ultimately get to create a life that feels good to live. So click on the link in the comments or in my bio to check out my one-on-one offerings. And remember, the version of you who trusts themselves completely did not disappear. That version of you got buried under everything that the world asked you to be instead, to get you to where you are, to get you to that level of success that you have. The work isn't just becoming someone new, because this person already exists inside of you. It's who you're meant to be all along. It's clearing the static in your energy field so you can finally hear your intuition clearly, so you can make the decisions to become who you were always meant to be.